Welcome to another episode of Thursday Thought Leaders with Harbinder Narula, where we talk to the visionaries shaping the future of healthcare. Today's guest is at the forefront of one of the most exciting frontiers in medicine, the cell and gene therapy. I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Priya Hingorani, the Managing Director of South Asia at Miltenyi Biotech, a global leader in cellular research and immunotherapy. In this conversation, we'll explore how India is poised to become the biotech powerhouse, what it takes to make advanced therapies more accessible, and how Miltenyi is bringing cutting edge science closer to the patient. Now,
Yeah.
whether you're a researcher, a policymaker, or a health innovator, this is a conversation that you don't want to miss. Dr. Hingorani, welcome to Thursday Thought Leaders.
Thank you. Thank you, Arvind. It's such a pleasure to be on the show and be able to speak to you on this exciting therapy.
Awesome. Dr. Ingorani, you've had a fascinating journey uh, in life sciences leadership. What drew you to this intersection of science, innovation, and healthcare impact, especially at this current role at Miltenyi Biotech?
Very interesting question. Actually, I think I've always been at at the intersection of science, innovation, and healthcare ever since I started my career with various organizations which have been in the forefront of innovation in my past roles. Today, as we look at science and as we look at what's happening, it's fast changing. I think no 2 months are the same when it looks at science every day, the kind of innovation that's flowing in. And therefore, cell and gene by itself is probably changing and reshaping the way we look at therapy, we look at healthcare, and we look at treatment for patients for today and for the future. So I think I would say this intersection is just about starting from the perspective of the way that we are looking as we know medicine today, and probably innovation and science is going to lead the pathway for this for a very long time in the foreseeable future. It has led in the past, but it's fast changing. It's fast changing. So this is where it's going to be.
And Miltenyi Biotech has been a global pioneer in cell and gene therapy, and that's what I understand about the company.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how do you see this field evolving specifically in India and South Asia over the next decade? Because you know the last few years have been very transformative.
Yeah.
What is it that we could expect in the next decade?
So I think in the field of cell and gene, decade is a very long time to talk about because the way the progress is happening, uh, what we knew 2 years ago is way different from what we know today and the way we are approaching. The indications that we could probably treat 2 years ago is very different from what we know today and what we can treat. And therefore, one thing is for sure, the opportunities are immense, unlimited, and this pathway is very exciting. That's what I know for sure. Just to bring some numbers in, I think everybody in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and in South Asia is talking about 50 to $100 billion industry in biotech and biomedicine. We are talking of building treatment centers, building treatment across new indications. Tailwinds are there. We are getting a lot of tailwind, whether it is in terms of the processes, in terms of technology, in terms of interest from healthcare providers or from patients. That's, I think, a unique combination. You don't get to see it so often. I've been in healthcare for about 3 decades, so I can tell you it's not necessarily always there and all elements falling into the system, and that's something that's getting it to making it very exciting in this space.
And Dr. Ingurani, India is a global hub for pharmaceuticals now.
Yes.
But what will it take for it to become a serious player in cutting edge therapies like CAR Ts, stem cell research, and regenerative medicine?
Um, so first things first, I think India is there at a very, very opportune time and with something which is most important, that is the talent that we have in this pool. And I would just like to liken it to what we have done in the space of IT in terms of transformation for the way the world knows technology. And it's not limited to technology alone. I think we also have great sportsmen across the globe in every field. Whether we talk of Rishabh Pant just yesterday, creating history, or whether it's Virat Kohli in RCB, or whether it's in the speed field of chess, I think there is no dearth of cells of every kind which are working, right? The element that I believe the government has realized, and all the stakeholders in the ecosystem have realized, that we need to work in tandem, and we need to make sure that there is an equal amount of weightlifting and punching above their weight that every stakeholder has to do, whether it is the regulatory aspect, whether it is the manufacturing aspect, whether it is provision of healthcare and access of healthcare aspect, or whether it is purely having talent which actually knows how to convert this knowledge into execution and creation of products that can make a difference. So the elements are there. It's about stitching them together and bringing it to make a beautiful symphony that we can see for the future.
And you know what? I remember when I used to work with a large multinational global organization, one of the most important thing for the leadership was to align the global vision to what we could do locally to address the local opportunities.
Mm.
How do you localize Miltenyi's global vision to meet the unique needs and the opportunities in the Indian healthcare and research ecosystem?
Miltenyi's global vision is about making sure healthcare reaches the last patient, who deserves it, making sure there's an impact, and making sure that innovation becomes very meaningful. So, if I was to look at Stefan Miltenyi, who's the founder of this organization and who's built this path-breaking innovative equipment, which led to the start of the story 35 years ago, it's about open innovation. It's about getting the people who want to make a difference and start growing there. So the global vision is this. And therefore, we have small, I would say, entrepreneurial incubators in every market that we are running. I would call ourselves also this entrepreneurial incubator, because we have the ability and the independence to do what is right for this market. So it's atypically, as you would not see very often in an MNC, it's a very decentralized approach. It's something that what suits here, you tell us what works here, and then we can start building it for the market. So the commitment to getting India and to getting the patients have access is extremely, extremely refreshingly positive. If I was to believe what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing and what I'm experiencing in the last year or so in Miltony. We already have brought in our innovation and technology center in Hyderabad. We launched it in Feb. We started operations only in 24 and 25. Beginning, the center was here, which is committed to training and upskilling scientists in all parts of India. We have fostered India operations. So basically, we are now an entity within India. And companies do this only when they are very convinced that they want to be here for a very long time. The commitment with BIRAC for the LOI is another momentous thing, momentous occasion that came up because we believed that it is the right thing to do in terms of bringing treatments across indications to India. So the global vision of making an impact, and I'm naming few things because there's so much that's happening on a daily basis, whether it's bringing the right resources to the market, both human capital and otherwise, is the commitment is just there. It's about raising your hand and asking for it.
I'm very intrigued by when you started giving me the last answer. You started with mentioning that, when the story of Mutiny started. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How did it all begin?
Globally, it's a very interesting aspect. So Stefan Miltenyi, the he is basically a scientist, and he was doing his research in one of the German universities, and he came across this magnetic cell separation that he was doing, and he realized that this is probably path breaking, and it's also something that is creating an automated system which is helping us get better cells which can have more viability and be more effective in the patient, just to simplify what he's saying, to present it to everybody who's listening. And that started, I think that little bit started, and he decided, as with any entrepreneur, wherever he went and proposed his idea, it met with resistance. Sometimes it met with, okay, very cautious optimism. But then, as serendipity would have it, he figured out with someone that some entrepreneur himself, that this could probably be a path breaking and changing piece of equipment. And I think that started the story of Miltenyi in Bergisch Gladbach in Germany, where 35 years ago, there's a small washing machine that you would see there, which is Stefan's mom's washing machine, in which he started this whole process of learning about separation and then, implementing it to the magnetic separation. So, it's not only in Punjab that we look at washing machines differently, it's also globally that washing machines have a different uh, uh, element of execution.
Absolutely.
And from there to bringing up equipment which is world class, I think Miltenyi has the entire value chain when it comes to cell and gene. Whether it is equipment, whether it's consumables, whether it's the way the research is done. And now, of course, in the last 7 to 8 years, we are also looking at how to bring cell and gene therapies to the market, because we do it all. We are the ones who provide this equipment, so why not do it ourselves? So soon we will hear about Miltenyi's own CAR-T. It's already there. We have filed it with the various FTAs, and I'm sure we'll be launching.
But tell me one thing. I mean, I'm digressing from my usual questions. Uh, Most people who are not from the healthcare field, or not from the technical healthcare side, they don't understand. They've heard about cells, gene therapy,
Yeah.
etc., but they are not able to understand what it means for the patient.
Yeah.
If you were to close your eyes and see the impact that it could create for the people at large, how would you explain that for people to understand that what could cell and gene therapy mean to them in their life?
Basically, it's when we say it's personalized medicine, right? So it's talking about, so we have heard of different bits of it. We have heard of gene in some form and cell in some form, and some conditioning together. Um, as I got inducted into it, and I'm also coming from a typical pharma world into the cell and gene space, the idea of how your own system could be used to provide treatment, or to make sure that some of the unsurmountable diseases are being now at least providing a glimmer of hope, without sounding to be technically incorrect, I would like to say that. But let me give you an example, and let's not talk about blood tumors for a minute, where again we are getting, if you see our products, the phase 1 trial that's just got completed at CMC Velo, astounding rates of what we are seeing in relapsed and refractory patients. The kind of response rates we are seeing are upwards of 90%, which is unheard of so far. But I want to, a particular example stood out for me in January, when we had the opportunity of meeting a patient, a young girl who at 16 years of age got lupus. Now, lupus generally means a very, very morbid outlook. And obviously, the mortality also gets a little higher, especially because younger females, life is compromised. They have a lot of sensitivity. They have a lot of issues that they are facing in terms of bone pain, continuous hospitalization, recurrent hospitalization, and most importantly, you will see rashes all over the body. And We saw this young woman of 24 stand there who was diagnosed with lupus at 16, and she underwent CAR T treatment, of course, on the Miltenyi platforms, which were done by doctors who were looking at experimental. And it's my favorite quote to say it looked like a cosmetic before and after ad. This young girl is today pursuing medicine, is going to be a doctor, and she wants to make this impact on our lives. And I can, even as I speak about it, I get goosebumps because it just shows you the level of impact you can create for patients. Cancer is difficult to treat, but even treatments like this, which is coming up in the space of autoimmune diseases, I think is opening a vista that we have probably never even imagined before. And this is just the beginning.
Absolutely. I mean, my first book that is coming out is on cancer. And
Oh, yeah,
we've
yeah,
spoken to a lot of survivors and oncologists to
yeah.
identify certain things. I'll tell you more about it later. So,
Very
Dr. Hingorani, are there any key partnerships, perhaps with hospitals, startups, or academic institutions that you're excited about when it comes to the Indian landscape?
Mhm. I mean, extremely excited. This is one word that I would like to say, and it's not only just us; it's also the partners. The number of hospitals, the number of academic institutions, the number of government bodies that are eager to work with us, and we are equally eager to work with them to make an impact to patients is astounding. I would not like to name just one or two hospitals, but I can tell you that every chain that we would know of wants to get into the cell and gene space. Every large pharma wants to get into the cell and gene space in India. A lot of academic institutions want to work in the space of CAR T or graft engineering, and they want to be there. CMC Vellore, I already told you we're working with. You will soon hear about THSTI, where we are partnering with them under the BIRAC umbrella. Um, AIMS is keen to do this. PGI Chandigarh is, I mean, every institute wants to, be there and see how they can best have an outreach for their patients, especially where treatment today doesn't provide too many options, and where CAR-T can work. I just want to caution: it's not a panacea. It's something that can work. It's something that cannot work. But at least there is another ammunition in the entire, in the bag of the doctors today to say, can I therefore offer this treatment to the patient and give a fighting chance to survive and to live a life dramatically
Abs-
different from what they were living earlier?
Absolutely. And Dr. Hingorani, when we often hear about the regulatory and infrastructure hurdles
Um,
in bringing advanced therapies to the Indian patients. From your perspective, what are the biggest bottlenecks that you have experienced, and how do we move past them? Is there an ask from the government or from the policymakers to make things easier to be able to bring these therapies to our country?
yeah. Like I mentioned to you in the beginning, right? There is I've done doing so many therapies, there's so much tailwind and there's a pull in the market. And I think the regulators are not oblivious to this. So, very uh, pleasantly, I would say, I was taken in after coming in from multiple years abroad and then, meeting with the regulatory framework here. They're taking active interest in understanding cell and gene. And this is not unique to India. This is globally, people are evolving, the ecosystem is evolving. So everybody is learning, including the companies who are working on it. Like I told you, no 2 days are same. What you knew yesterday, you may find it's redundant and there's something else that's coming up today. But the um, the commitment to learn, the commitment to pick this up and to make it worth their while, to be able to make a meaningful contribution when it comes to any questions that they're asking, or what is it right for the patient. I think there's a huge transformation that's happening, and I've met some very, very inspiring people in the regulatory. I would say I had a chance to work with Dr. Jitendra Kumar from BIRAC very closely. And then I had a chance to interact with our health secretary, Dr. Gokhale. And both of them are talking the language of cell and gene, which is so refreshing to hear. And I would not want to leave out the DCGI right now, I think, because they're all into it. Importantly, they are open to suggestions. They want to bring in experts. There is a forum that's working on advising the cell and gene therapy a system, how the regulatory framework should look like, what the guidelines should look like. So this is all working up. As with any therapy which is nascent and growing and coming up, there are going to be hurdles. There are going to be things that we would anticipate, like a drug approval that comes through, which is after decades of learning. This will go through its own learning curve and we will settle down. But what's important is the will to do this is there. And that's, I think, very, very encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the intent underlying the effort is what, is really, really important, at least in the kickstarting stage. Uh, Dr. Hingorani, one word that I understand could define your career of 30 years is innovation. And biotech innovation depends heavily on the talent which is available.
Yes.
What's your assessment of India's biotech talent pool, and how can it be better aligned to the future of cell and gene therapy and the research and the development that happens in India or should be happening in India from now on?
I think one of the advantages we have as being Indians, and very proudly so, is the demographic dividend that we live with, right? So we have the youth, which is on our side. And I'm so happy to see so many of them veering towards biotech. The important thing is to channelize this talent. So we would have tremendous amount of knowledge that is sitting there. But how do you transform and translate this knowledge to the treatment? How do you translate this to what an outcome could be? So that is why our work with BIRAC and the LOI is on basically upskilling this talent to, or rather even skilling it in certain forms to make sure that they know what are the global standards, what is expected out of them. How do they make sure that cell and gene works through? If we have to have an outreach to this 1.4 billion people who may at some point need some form of cell and gene treatment, and not necessarily all very morbid. Some good cosmetic treatment also can come out of cell and gene. So, in that perspective, how do we make sure that we have the scale of operations? How do we have, we do not fall flat because we don't have enough people to run this out? And from that objective in mind, Miltenyi is partnering with the BIRAC and making sure that we have this treatment, this upskilling and this readiness of the talent pool to move through. Having said that, I think a lot of our people are doing PhDs abroad when it comes to cell and gene and a treatment. We have just brought in a talent from Germany in a German organization, different German organization, to work for India in the manufacturing section, so that we can bring in that kind of knowledge to India. And it's very exciting. Everybody wants to be in India, and I think it's the right time for us to get this excitement.
I couldn't agree more with you on this. Dr. Ingorani, there's a lot of buzz around how AI and automation are influencing the drug discovery and research in the pharma sector. Now, how is your company using these technologies to advance the work that it is doing in cell therapy and immunology? Uh,
So Harbinderji, I think for us, automation is the name of the game. Like I spoke about, the start point came in with something which could be automated. Our star product, very true to its name, Prodigy, is a machine this size which works end to end to produce a CAR-T, fully closed system. Gives out the quality output, gives you the right amount of reagent, works on it, works the platform actually is pretty much self-sufficient, right? You just need one person to monitor and make sure everything is just going right. That's also for our satisfaction. The machine doesn't require it. From that perspective, I think we are very well entrenched in automation. A lot of our equipment, a lot of the work that we do with the machines that we work on are working on automation. Therefore, AI becomes an integral part. If I'm looking at, some intelligent input coming in and trying to decipher that this is how we could probably make it 99.999%, better. And therefore, the core for us for AI is data. So how do we make sure that this humongous amount of data that comes in is channelized, analyzed, and brought to a point where it can become actionable to give better outcomes? Whether it's patients, whether it's the machines, whether it's the reagents, how do we work on that? And Miltenyi is very inclined and invested in making sure that this works on our platforms.
And I used to, and I'm quoted in a lot of places that I keep saying that there are these three pillars that uh, healthcare depends upon, and everybody, whatever they are doing, is impacting any of these three players. Now, one pillar is the accessibility and availability of technology, treatment, whatever is there. The second is the quality, and the third one is affordability.
Mm.
Now, how can we ensure that these powerful therapies that you're working on, that are often very, very expensive, don't remain just in the domain of an elite hospital or high income patients? What is your company's approach to making it accessible in markets like India? And not just for the overseas patients who are coming to India who find it affordable when they compare it to the globe, but to even the patients who are from India. And for them, it is still very expensive.
So, Aminaji, I'll just leave cost out for 1 minute. Okay, I know we are a very, very cost sensitive country, but I'll just leave it out for a minute and talk about the value and the chain that cell and gene brings to you. So one of the ways, and the first pillar that you spoke about of access, it's about making sure that we are there where the patient is. And therefore, Miltenyi's vision is to make sure that the point of care, which is within the hospitals, is comes to life, which means that the doctor, right from the time the doctor thinks about giving a CAR T, the patient's cells are leukophorized and brought into the prodigy, which is sitting within the hospital premises. And then the prodigy does its magic, brings out the CAR T cells towards the end of whatever period of time, and then they are re-injected back into the patient within the same hospital. So you're bringing it right there. The HCP is there, the patient is there, the ecosystem is there, and therefore they should have this kind of an access. The second bit is on, so you talk about technology, you talk about everything sitting there. There are so we are definitely working with all stakeholders to make sure that the access, affordability, and the ability to pay and the willingness to pay all go in tandem. In this, I also believe other players like insurance, were maybe the government schemes, whether it's Ayushman Bharat, or whether it is even how hospitals are translating the therapy to the patients, all will have to work together. Miltenyi can do its bit and bring it over here. And then how do we make sure that this is, reaching out to the patient, Indian patient, not necessarily the medical tourism, not anybody else, but the people in our market who deserve to get this treatment. We are working with them. Have we left it to them and said, "You please do your bit"? No, we are very happy to partner. We are very happy to share our understanding, our learnings, and make sure that this access actually translates into reaching the patient down the line and getting those treatments, because every life saved is one family saved. And I think that's what we want to build our company on.
Absolutely. And if you had to bet on one game-changing breakthrough, now whether
Mm.
it is scientific, technological, or a systemic, uh, that could redefine the healthcare in South Asia in the next 10 years? And we could talk about next 5 years because I remember you just said that 10 years is too long.
Yeah.
What
I'm sure a lot of executives will tell me even a year is too long.
Absolutely.
So let's leave it at that.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So
Yeah.
what would it be?
So I think science and technology is a given. There is, all of us have been working and we are talking of scientific breakthroughs coming in almost on a daily basis. I was just seeing something, um, which to this morning, somebody was talking about some treatment that can, change the way paralytic patients are responding to treatment per se, and something that can help give those outcomes better. That's coming through technology. Like I told you, we hold that baton and we bring it to the market. We bring innovation to the market. From a systemic perspective, like I mentioned earlier, there are multiple stakeholders, and it's always the ecosystem which can either facilitate or which can forbid the organizations and the treatments to move forward. India so far has been a very, very encouraging ecosystem. I think in the cell and gene therapy, everybody has caught on to the game very early, are understanding what is it that will be required. It's now about bringing that intent to action and making sure that every stakeholder holds their end of the flag and make sure that it's rising high.
Fantastic. Um, Dr. Hingorani, I have two more questions which are more towards your personal
Absolutely. Tell
life
me.
experiences.
Yes.
We were talking, you and I were having a conversation around the women in healthcare, women
Yeah.
in pharma sector. And we were talking about there aren't too many women who have grown up beyond a particular level in commercial pharma, right? What do you think is something that we need to do to change this in our country in today's day and age when we are more open to diversity, inclusion? We are having a lot of conversations around it. And how is it? What has been your experience, which is different in different countries that you worked? Something that we can learn from other geographies because you worked in various geographies. You've served in Japan, you've served in various places around Asia. Then your last assignment before you came to India was in Middle East. So what is the difference that you have experienced?
So I would say in the 3 decades that I was there, Habinaji, and I, when we were in the starting phases of her career, there were not too many senior, I mean, not too many, there were no senior women sitting in the boardroom, right? Until very recently, I would say that I used to be the only person in the boardroom, the only female in the boardroom with full of men. It's changing for two, three reasons. One, you have now there are role models that you can look up to, and I think some of us have to give back to the industry in terms of making sure and are giving back. I would not say have to, and are giving back to make sure that there is more diversity and inclusion in the form of gender inclusion, not only in every other aspect, to get people on. I think I work with a lot of young talent across industries, not necessarily only healthcare, to make sure that they take the baby steps required to to keep the resilience on and continue. Whether it's people have this known as the diversity and inclusion, then the WLI initiative, or whatever name you may give it. There are various industry bodies like CII, women's, which has the International Indian Women's Network, which they run, where you get talent from every part of every industry. The interesting denominator in all this is the problems still continue to be the same that they were there earlier, many, many years ago. And one of them is the societal ecosystem that is working to make sure that the women are successful. Now, we can't go out and change the society. What we can do is to provide that support within the organization so that women feel more capable. One of the ways I can say in one of my previous organizations, we had a creche within the premises of the office. So young mothers who were frequent dropouts because they didn't have a place to keep their children were reassured because they could leave the child maybe 2 floors down with a fully equipped caretaker, not one, but multiple, and who were taking care of the baby, and then they could go down and take this off. The maternity leave extension is another thing that has helped. But the third and most important thing is to, when the women are in the workforce, to make sure that they navigate those challenges that are getting faced, with the support of people who have been through it and have come out of it on the other side. So I have peers who are equally passionate about this, and few of us who are there in those boardrooms, but I believe we sort of champion this cause, and we would like to see more women. And I'll be very, very excited to have a time when the boardroom has at least a 50-50 representation, if not more.
I'm hoping that's going to be happening really, really soon. One question before I let you go, Dr. Priya, is uh, what do you do in your personal time? Do you get any personal time?
That's a good question. Uh, right now, I'm in the entrepreneurial phase. So I think it's rare. It's a rarity to get personal time. But when I do, it's about reflecting, and I work a lot with people and children with cerebral palsy. So that's something that interests me, and I try and see if I can contribute in some form to their treatment, to advancement, and to making sure that this niche does that. And this is when I think my two children decide that Mama can be left away, and that's the bit that I try to do.
Awesome. You know, Dr. Hingorani, I think it's been a very insightful conversation that I've had with you. I could sense the commitment to ensure that the therapies that are difficult to get access to are made accessible to our country. And also, the intent to actually work with the ecosystem to make it, affordable so that it's not that you have something which is available yet not accessible. We are able to change that. So thank you, Dr. Ingorani, for your insights and your vision. I think it's clear that the future of healthcare in India will not just be about treating the disease, but transforming how we think about therapy at the cellular level. So I look forward to be with you once again, maybe sometime soon on one of those Thursdays yet again. Thank you so much for your taking our time to be with us.
Thank you, Harbin. It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on the show.